So let's unpack this for a second.
Yep.
You're HBO. You've done Game of Thrones. It conquered the world.
Mm-hmm.
Then you strike gold again with House of the Dragon. You've got ice zombies over here. You've got a dragon civil war over there.
Right, you can't really get bigger than that. The stakes are already at, like, 11.
Exactly. So where do you go next without just blowing more stuff up? It's a real problem.
It is. You need a different kind of story. You can't just keep escalating forever. Eventually, you just run out of cities to burn.
Which is exactly why we are heading back to Westeros today. But we aren't going to the Wall, and we are not going to Dragonstone to watch giant lizards fight.
No. We are landing in a very, very specific sweet spot in the timeline with A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
It's sort of a have your cake and eat it too deal, right?
It is. It's a prequel to Game of Thrones, but it's also, in a way, a sequel to House of the Dragon.
And I think that's where people might get a little tripped up. The timeline it's getting crowded.
Yeah.
So our whole mission today is just to stick a pin in the map, chronologically. We need to lay out exactly when we are and where we are. Because if you go into this looking for Rhaenyra or Ned Stark, you are going to be very, very confused.
Context is everything. We have to map out this world of 209 AC. We need to figure out why the Targaryens are suddenly so insecure.
Right. And why is everyone whispering about some guy named Bloodraven?
Yes, and how basically a homeless knight and a bald kid end up shaping the entire future of this universe.
Okay, let's get the calendar out then. In Westeros, we measure time AC after Conquest.
Right.
House of the Dragon, that peak Targaryen power era that kicks off around, 101 AC. Life is good, dragons are everywhere.
That's the golden age. Then you jump forward, way forward, to Game of Thrones, starting in 298 AC.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the end of the line for them.
And this deep dive, we're landing smack in the middle. 209 AC.
Exactly.
Okay, so doing the math. 209 AC. That's roughly 90 years before the main series. 90 years before Robert, Ned, the Lannisters.
Yeah, which sounds like a long time. But, in a world like this where technology doesn't really change, that's maybe 2 lifespans.
So it's close enough.
It's close enough that the world looks the same. You've got the Kingsguard, the Citadel, the Night's Watch. But it's far enough that the characters we know just haven't been born yet.
But the more important number, I think, is looking backward. How far are we from House of the Dragon's Civil War?
We are about 80 years after the Dance of the Dragons. And that right there is crucial for the vibe check.
The vibe check, I like that. So what is the vibe in 209 AC?
It's a hangover. That is the best way I can describe it.
Okay.
The entire realm is suffering from a massive historical hangover.
The Dance of the Dragons. It's just outside of living memory then.
Exactly. It's a ghost story.
Yeah.
The people living in 209 AC, they didn't fight in it, but their grandparents did. They live in the rubble of it. They grew up hearing these absolute horror stories.
And that leads us to the biggest, most obvious difference between this show and House of the Dragon. The dragons, the family, are still on the Iron Throne.
Mm-hmm. They're in charge.
But the dragons, the flying, fire-breathing super weapons, are gone. They're extinct.
That is the single defining feature of this whole era. For the first, 150 years of their rule, the Targaryens stayed in power because they were basically gods?
It wasn't about tax policy.
No. It was about air superiority. You do not argue with the guy who can literally melt your castle from the sky.
Mine makes a very easy argument when you have the only F-16s in the Bronze Age.
Precisely. But now, the last dragon died decades ago. A stunted, sickly little thing. So in 209 AC, you have King Daeron II on the throne. He looks like a Targaryen. He acts like a Targaryen.
Yeah.
But he has no air force.
Which creates a what we could call a paper tiger problem.
That's it, exactly. It's a crisis of legitimacy. They're trying to project that same godlike power they used to have, but they just don't have the hardware to back it up anymore.
And people are starting to notice.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The local lords, even the small folk, they're looking at these royals with their silver hair and purple eyes, and they're thinking, wait a minute. Are you actually gods? Or are you just these weird foreigners who marry your sisters? The mystique is crumbling.
That is such a fascinating setup. A monarchy just desperate to prove it's still strong, ruling a population that's starting to realize the emperor has no dragons.
And into that bubbling pot walks our 2 protagonists.
Yeah.
And they could not be further from the high lords and ladies we're used to.
No, the scope is so much smaller here. We're in the mud. We meet Ser Duncan the Tall. Dunk.
He's the ultimate gig economy worker of Westeros.
That's perfect. He's a hedge knight. And we should probably unpack that term because it sounds kind of charming, but the reality is brutal.
It is. In the whole hierarchy of Westeros, a hedge knight is the absolute bottom of the warrior class. He owns his horse, his armor, and his sword, and that is it. No land, no master, no income.
He sleeps under hedges. It's in the name.
It's literally in the name. He wanders from tourney to tourney, hoping some lord will toss him a few coins. If he doesn't find work, he doesn't eat.
And he picks up a sidekick, this bald, very sassy kid named Egg.
It's that classic lone wolf and cub dynamic. But what makes it work is that through them, we see all the cracks in the system from the bottom up, not from the top of the Red Keep down.
But just because we're not dealing with dragons doesn't mean there isn't a war hanging over everyone's head. You said the dance is old news, but there's a fresh ghost haunting the realm.
The Blackfire Rebellion.
This is the real context we need, right? You can't understand the tension in this world without understanding the Blackfires.
It is the defining conflict of this generation. In Game of Thrones, it's all about Stark versus Lannister. Here, it's the Red Dragon, the Targaryens, versus the Black Dragon, the Blackfires.
So where did this all come from? It goes back to a king named Aegon IV. History calls him Aegon the Unworthy.
And with a name like that, you know it's not going to be good.
He sounds like a real piece of work.
He was a disaster. Spiteful, corrupt, had ravenous appetites. He had his illegitimate kids, but he also had countless mistresses and illegitimate children. The most famous were called the Great Bastards.
And normally in Westeros, bastards are just... they're inconvenient, they get a different name, they stay out of the way, they don't inherit.
Normally. But Aegon the Unworthy hated his legitimate son, Daeron. Daeron was bookish, scholarly, not a warrior. So on his deathbed, purely to cause the maximum amount of chaos, he legitimized all of them.
Yeah.
Every single bastard.
Wow. That's like pulling the pin on a grenade and just dropping it in the living room on your way out.
That is exactly what he did. Suddenly you have a dozen potential claimants to the throne.
Yeah.
But the real kicker, and this is where the name Blackfire comes from, was the sword.
The sword, Blackfire.
The ancestral Valyrian steel sword of House Targaryen.
Yeah.
Every king since the Conqueror had carried it. It is the symbol of the monarchy.
And you give that to your heir, to Daeron.
Right. You would think. But Aegon IV gave it to one of his bastards, a man named Daemon. And Daemon was everything Daeron wasn't. He was tall, handsome, an incredible warrior, looked like a god of war. And now, he had the king's sword.
Oh, wow. So that sends a message. The law says the nerd is king, but the vibes say it's the guy with the sword.
The vibes are everything. Daemon took the name Daemon Blackfire, and eventually the realm just split in half. The lords who valued strength and tradition backed Daemon. The ones who valued the rule of law backed Daeron.
And so they fought. The first Blackfire Rebellion.
They fought. And King Daeron II, the good guy scholar, he won. Daemon Blackfire was killed. But, and this is the important part, Daemon's sons escaped. They got across the narrow sea to the free cities.
Ah, so it's not actually over.
It's never over. In 29 AC, the war is technically finished, but the realm is just dripping with paranoia. It's a cold war that could turn hot at any moment. Every time a lord whispers in a corner, the king is wondering, is he a Blackfire man? Are they plotting a second rebellion?
It creates this atmosphere of deep suspicion. You've got the Targaryens on the throne, but they know there are these pretenders across the water just waiting for them to look weak.
And without dragons, they are weak. That's the tension. They can't just burn their enemies anymore.
So you have a paranoid monarchy, a restless population, and our two guys, Dunk and Egg, walk right into the middle of it at the tourney at Ashford Meadow.
Right. And a tourney is like the Super Bowl and a political convention all rolled into one. Is where we get to see the royal family up close.
And we see a few of them. There's Prince Baelor, the heir, a good man.
The best of them, really.
And his brother, Prince Maekar, who's a bit more rigid. And then we get Maekar's son, Aerion.
Aerion Targaryen. If you want to understand why the Targaryens are in trouble, just look at Aerion.
He's described as fiery, which feels like a bit of an understatement.
Oh, it's a huge understatement. He's a nightmare. But more than that, he's deeply insecure. That paper tiger problem we talked about. Aerion feels it in his bones.
He knows people are laughing at them.
He knows it. He knows they don't have the same respect. He knows the Blackfires are out there looking like these warrior gods while he's just a prince. So he acts out. He uses cruelty to try and force people to respect him. He's trying to be a dragon when there are no dragons left.
And that puts him on a direct collision course with Dunk. Because Dunk, for a guy who sleeps under hedges, has a really strong moral compass.
He does. And that clash between this arrogant, insecure prince and the stubborn honor of a complete nobody, that's what sparks the whole conflict.
It's amazing how a small thing, one argument at a tourney, can threaten to unravel an entire dynasty.
Because the piece is that fragile.
Okay, now this is where it gets really, really cool for listeners who are obsessively connecting the dots. Even though we're 80 years before Game of Thrones, there are direct lines to characters we know.
There are. And they are kind of mind-blowing if you haven't put the pieces together.
Let's start with the most emotional one, Maester Aemon. The blind, ancient maester at Castle Black who mentors Jon Snow.
Aemon Targaryen. The man who could have been king.
Right. We know he dies of old age in the show. But here, in this timeline, in Tor 9 AC, where is he?
He's alive, he's young, and he is Prince Maekar's son.
Wait, Maekar, the grumpy dad at the tourney, is Maester Aemon's father.
Correct, which means Aemon is the older brother of Egg.
Oh, that just changes everything about that scene in Game of Thrones.
It does. Think back to Aemon's dying words. He's delirious, lying in his bed at Castle Black, and he whispers, "Egg, I dreamed that I was old."
I just got chills. He wasn't talking about breakfast. He was talking to his little brother.
He was talking to the bold squire we're following in this story. Eventually, Egg grows up to become King Aegon V, Aegon the Unlikely, and the only reason Egg gets the throne is because Aemon joins the Night's Watch to take himself out of the line of succession.
So his brother could rule without challenge. Wow. That is tragic and beautiful, but there's another connection, a much darker one.
Much darker.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the Three-Eyed Crow.
The guy in the tree, the entity that trains Bran Stark.
In Game of Thrones, he's this mystical, almost non-human figure. But in 29 AC, he is a man, and a very scary, very political man named Brynden Rivers.
Also known as Blood-Driven.
Yep. He is another one of those great bastards legitimized by Aegon the Unworthy, a half-brother to Daemon Blackfyre. But unlike Daemon, Blood-Driven stayed loyal to the crown.
And he looks the part of a villain, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He's an albino,
Yeah.
white skin, red eyes, and he has this big red birthmark on his face that looks like a bird, hence Blood-Driven.
And people think he's a sorcerer.
The rumors are that he's a sorcerer who uses magic to spy on his enemies. He's basically the master of whisperers, the head of the secret police. This is saying at the time, how many eyes does Lord Blood-Driven have? 1,000 eyes and one.
His network of spies, and the one actual eye he has left.
Exactly. He's created a surveillance state. In a world without dragons, information and fear are the new weapons, and he wields them better than anyone.
It's just wild to think that the tree wizard Bran meets was once a spy master involved in dirty Civil War politics.
And that's the connection. Blood-Driven eventually gets sent to the Night's Watch by Egg, of all people. Later in life goes missing beyond the wall and becomes the Three-Eyed Crow.
So the seeds for the very end of the story, Jon Snow's mentor, Bran's teacher, are being planted right here in 209 AC.
They are. The actions of Dunk, Egg, and Blood-Driven. They set the stage for everything that happens in the main series.
So what does this all mean? We are stepping into this unique pocket of history.
We really are. It's a moment of deceptive quiet. The dragons are dead, the bastards are restless, and the Targaryens are holding on by a thread. It's a story that's less about, huge armies and more about the personal cost of things like knighthood and lineage.
It feels more grounded. You're worried about whether Dunk can afford a new shield, not whether the Night King is going to freeze the world.
And yet the stakes are just as high in their own way. We know that the survival of this dynasty, the eventual birth of Daenerys, it all depends on these small personal interactions.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought on that, the butterfly effect. We know how the Targaryen dynasty ends. Madness, fire, Robert's rebellion. But looking at 209 AC, you have to wonder.
Go on.
If the Blackfyre rebellion had gone the other way. Or if a hedge knight named Dunk had just never bothered to stop for a bald kid named Egg on the side of the road. Would the Song of Ice and Fire have ever happened at all?
That's the question, isn't it? If Dunk walks past Egg, Egg probably doesn't become king. Aemon doesn't go to the wall, so Jon Snow never has that mentor. Blood-Driven never goes north, so Bran never learns to fly. The whole history of the world really could hinge on that one chance meeting.
And that is why we watch. Keep an eye out for those seeds of the future. Thanks for diving in with us.
Until next time.